the skill. They have more than one guy. It's probably Boston. I'm actually pretty impressed with Boston. I think Boston's been fantastic, but I really believe I saw Cam Neely come out the other day and said they're going to be a tough out. And for me, that's sometimes just feels like what you're supposed to say when you're the head of an organization, but they actually might be a tough out this year. I think they might surprise some teams because they're kind of scrappy group there. So I love the storylines, but I'm not going to say that either of those teams are going to be playoff teams because I still probably feel pretty strongly they're not going to be.
You're watching and listening to Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Does a great job on NHL Network. Okay, Rupper, we've on occasion had a bit of a bold statement or comment on this show, but I rank yours right up there with this one on the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they lost 100 points, 24-minute man in Mitch Marner. Yet you say that this is the best lineup they've had in a long time.
Yeah, yes.
Where do you go? Like, where are your first thoughts on that?
So, when I say that is with the goal in mind of winning a Stanley Cup, and not skill-wise. I mean, no, that's foolish. Are you saying? I am not saying that they are a more talented team now than they were before Mitch ends up going to Vegas. But that's where maybe there's differences in opinions on what wins and what doesn't win in this league with fans even. Because fans are going to sit there and go, well, I want a more skilled. We are a better team. Yeah, you might be a better team. We've seen that here. That's been the story. There's never been a lack of talent. And we see that for a bunch of different teams. I actually think this year those points are going to be missed. I think Mitch makes you a better team on a night-to-night basis in the regular season. It's nothing to do with Mitch. Cutting Mitch out. They have built a better bottom six. This is a bottom six now that I feel that can make a difference in the postseason. I think the Florida Panthers are a perfect example of the way they approach things. We use whatever term you want, greasier, grittier. We've seen Toronto get gritty before, but these are actual players who've had some success. I feel in the playoffs, just having big moments. They've got those guys. I don't think it has to be the big guys. I think they have a team now that has specific roles. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. And the game is changing a lot. And a lot of times we have players nowadays miscast where you're playing a player, maybe the bottom two lines are the farm club for the top two lines. That's not going to win in the playoffs. You have to have the players that think the game a certain way, playing particular roles, being able to sit there and maybe play 11 minutes a night, but be effective in those 11 minutes. They have guys that can do that. So that's what I meant by that. This is a team come playoff time. I think that you're not going to have to look at the same guys all the time. And I think it's a very well-built, honestly, probably outside of Vegas, for forward depth, I might like Toronto. They might be my second favorite forward depth team in the National Hockey League. And who knows, I might be dead wrong the way the season plays out. But I think Scotty Laughton getting more and more comfortable, having a full season. Nick Waugh, I think, is going to pan out really well. Dakota Joshua is an intriguing one to me. And then you go on some of the bigger guys that they've had burst on the scene, maybe taking the next step. Matthew Nyes, Bobby McMahon, I've loved. So, yeah, I think this team's going to be a much more difficult out in the postseason. They might not have as much regular season success as far as point total, but they're closer to a Stanley Cup right now, I believe.
You know, Rupper, these teams kind of take these steps in their rebuild to getting into playoffs with some consistency, and then the expectations change, right? For the Leafs, it's like, okay, how do we find that next level? Round 2 last year, how do you get farther? Watching some of these other teams, and I have Montreal in mind right now, they've made this transition from the rebuild to a team that made the playoffs and kind of what's coming next. They play Detroit last night and win 5-1, a good showing there. There's rumors about Crosby this year, and people are like, what about Montreal? Maybe he'll go to Montreal. He loved them as a kid. I don't know. What are your thoughts on A, where the Canadians are at, and B, your boy Sidney Crosby, if he's going to go somewhere or not? Because that would be a match that Habs fans would love to hear.
be incredible. I'll start with the first thing. Montreal was so fun to watch. What a special year last year was, and how special Nick Suzuki was down the stretch. I mean, I don't know where you guys are at on him, but I mean, I think he's an elite centerman in this league now. And I thought he was a very good one before, but what he did last year down the stretch, almost willing that team in some regards. There's that 2 games. I think it was like March. It was something like March 30th and April 1st, both against the Florida Panthers, home and home. And he basically willed them the 2 wins in their comeback fashion in the third period. It was all Nick Suzuki, and I loved it. But I love Lane Hudson's season. I just think that last year had something special to it that's going to be very hard to replicate. Mm-hmm. And I think they have question marks as far as it's almost the same thing that we were talking about before. You can't just slap talent and say it's going to work. Like now, all of a sudden, you're getting into a season where's Patrick Laine fit in to the scheme of winning on a night-to-night basis, or into the playoffs, or even Demidov, elite talent. I'm not sure how trustworthy defensive zone, which is fine if you're getting points. But you start looking at the lineup, I have some questions. I have some questions on the back end. I think this year, when expectations land, it changes a lot. Mm-hmm. And they were just fun to watch because it wasn't supposed to happen. Well, now everyone's crowning that it is supposed to happen. They've arrived in some regards. I'll be honest, boys, I think it's going to be a grind to make the playoffs for them this year. I don't know if they get in. I think if they do get in, it's because the Metro's a fairly weak division that maybe that only pumps out 3 teams to go into the playoffs. They have a lot. It's all part of the growth for them, but I think they got to pump the brakes a little bit as far as some fans ready to say this team's there. I think you might get disappointed.
Rubber, we just spoke moments ago about a crazy goal in San Jose last night. We saw another bizarre goal in Edmonton's opening game with Coleman poking a loose puck through Skinner's pads. Is this just shaping up to be another year where everybody questions the Edmonton Oilers goaltending, and the only way this thing gets addressed is either one of 2 ways? You get another goalie to step in, or Skinner wins a Stanley Cup. But where is this conversation headed in your eyes?
It was brutal the other night because it's, you know, that question's always going to be there, but you're hoping that it doesn't happen in game 1. You know what I mean? Like, let's everybody wants to get their feet wet, get into the season a little bit. And the way it happens, and I give him a ton of credit. The way he handles himself in the media, and he takes it, and I think he started his media scrum with, all right, let's just get it out of the way. I love this kid. And I think they love him. Loving him doesn't mean that he's the right guy to lead you to a Stanley Cup. And this is where it gets tough.